Hey peeps, it's Carpo. I ceased making videos because I have too many things to do in my mind, but I wanted to share a little bit about comparative religion and acceptance and tolerance of other religions because I think that the reason why YouTube has changed so much has nothing to do with YouTube itself, or as far as I should say that people's perception of YouTube tends to shift with people's perceptions of the world. And I had someone say that the news is really negative all the time, and I agreed with them. It seemed that way. So I unsubscribed from all my negative channels and subscribed to some new positive channels, and all of a sudden that changed. It's really easy if we just take charge of our own lives and sit back and analyze what we need to do to change ourselves. I think that people have become too dependent on expecting the world to change for them, and it's very childish. And I understand because I've been there for a long time. It's like fighting. It's like swimming against the current. I've heard some of the most profound spiritual leaders say, yeah, you can walk away from the problems of society, but you're still part of it and you're still affected by it. And since we're all interconnected and we are all the mind of God, then whatever your brother's doing is what you're doing. And a lot of people still may not believe that. A lot of people still believe that the universe was just a fluke, and here we are, and that's fine. That's their belief system too, and I won't insult that either. I think what's happened is the intolerance has reached a critical level, and people are able to easily hide behind their computers and insult one another and bash one another. But the point isn't about the bashing and the religious fervor and insult, because that will never end as far as I can see. There will always be somebody who wants to support their own ideas by knocking someone else's down. So, with that said, sometimes you just have to let them. And if a person wants to bash your belief system, then don't bash theirs back. But the people I'm speaking here are the ones who are like me and don't have a belief system. I have a very strong code of ethics. I have a very strong will, very strong motivation to do the right thing and be a good person. I still have my flaws and I fail at a lot of things and I just keep trying. I'm a philosopher more than anything, so I like to think about life in terms of, why. And it's coming back around. Thinking is coming back around. It's had a little day in the closet there for a while, but with the Pope stepping down the other day, I just found it kind of ironic. It's around the same time that I decided to take up, within the same day I decided to take up, yoga and a certain spiritual practice. It's like one person's leaving their post and another is coming up to theirs. And this is the beauty of the world, is that people will change their ideals and their opinions every year if they need to. And what happens is if a person does that, somebody might say, hey, didn't you believe this before? So a person gets afraid to change their ideas. So they stick to what they believe because they think that believing something unconditionally and convincing everyone else that you believe in it makes it true. And perhaps that is true. If we're manifest destiny, then, perhaps your God does exist. But you have to ask yourself something. Does your religion support your true inner heart and your true inner feelings? Because if you're creating a God out of the very essence of believing in him, then you're also creating whatever hell you design for yourself. And I'm not going into religion here. This is about tolerance. It's about accepting one another for who they are and seeing that they're at a different stage or a different thought pattern in life. It's really beautiful to see all the different religions intermingling and accepting one another on a larger level. And it's happening right now. People will tell you differently. They'll say that there's just Arabs fighting over land, and that the Christian, right, is attacking the Muslims, and that is all true in a lot of places. But as a whole, thinking that the Muslim population hates Christianity or hates, Americans is just a preposterous notion to get us continuously turned against one another. Um, Very few people who have traveled to other countries and lived with people are still afraid and still think that way. It's fear of the unknown. It's just the same as if you live in L.A. and you picture how New York must be if you've never been there, or if you live in New York and you picture how L.A. must be. Sure, you've seen all the pictures, you've seen the movies, but once you get there, it's different. It's always different. And our perceptions are so easily skewed that we tend to just jump on the first thing that we believe because it's the easiest. But I think that if people step back a little bit from what they're doing with their mouths to harm one another, they would realize that there's a lot of corruption in the world and a lot of greed. When a person steals or maims or kills, that gets reported. When a person gets, or I should say everyone hears about it, when a person helps out a family for Christmas or donates money to a charity or gives a pair of shoes to an orphan, you seldom hear about that. It's just a conditioning of society. There's nothing wrong with that because we dwell on the negative because those are things we want to change. The positive are not things we want to change. We like positive, so we just leave them neutral. Negative are things we dwell on because we want to change, so we start seeing everything as negative. I'm way past that now. My whole life is everything's positive. I see nothing as negative. I see no good or bad. I don't believe in evil at all. I don't believe that a universe that is inherently good would create evil. And I've had people argue with me about that, and I just let them have their beliefs because that's all you can do. I won't argue back with someone because this is just my belief right now. It's a constantly changing belief system, and I'm not afraid to admit that. And I think that if people are open and honest with themselves, they'll realize that their belief systems are very flexible too. And if you look into theology just a little bit, you can see that most religions are inherently the same. You hear a lot about Christians and Muslims fighting. You don't hear very much about Hinduism. Why? Well, it's not in the Western mind because Hindus accept all religions. Hindus accept people for who they are and they accept the universe for what it is. They don't make distinctions between plant and animal or grass or dirt or rock. And it's a beautiful thing. But coming with that acceptance that things are larger than we could ever imagine. I mean, this is a religion that's based on the fact that we can never know. Now think about that for a minute. A religion based on the fact that life is a continual search for meaning and truth and dedication to your cause. Where in the Western mind, we can just be baptized, read a book, go to a building once a week, pray, and we're forgiven forever. The rest of our lives we can go work in toxic waste dumps and ammunition factories, and then go to church every week and be forgiven for our sins. And people need to really take a look at what we're doing as individuals in our lives to change the world, and not just for the better, but for the worse. Is your job impacting society in a negative way? Are the things you do impacting your friends and family in a negative way? These are things that people need to address on their own terms and in their own time. And I think if you're really honest with yourself, you'll see your shortcomings. And when you start to see them, it becomes easier to pick them out. And then one by one, you can start to shed those layers of negativity. And then you get to the point where you don't hold things in, you don't hold any resentments, and you become utterly peaceful. And people can say whatever they want, and you become bulletproof. Now, with that said, this is where the issue comes in. Once a person reaches a certain state of peace, they withdraw from society. A lot of them do, anyway. Many go on to become spiritual teachers, gurus, religious leaders, but many more tend to fade off into the woodwork and become monks, or, say they go to a monastery to live. I think that monasteries are great, and the idea of being a monk is great, but it's not productive for a society. We can't have everyone being a monk. That's not what society was meant to be. There's a portion of people that are monks, there's a portion of people that are, workers, and there's a portion of people who are thinkers. Just accept who you are, accept what you do. I've been waking up at 5 a.m. lately and I just don't want to go back to sleep. I used to sleep until 10 o'clock. But over the last month, making my life interesting and making every day a new challenge, it's completely changed everything about who I am. And I can't express it. There's no words that can express that feeling of Zen. It's just beyond comprehension. And I'm continually working on it. And I know that it'll be something I deal with until the day I die. But I can honestly say you can really change who you are in a matter of days or weeks. I mean, you can change your mind in 1 second, but you have to act upon that. Everyone has these great ideas in the middle of the day and says, oh yeah, I should do this, or I should start thinking this way. And then the next day, falling back into your old routines. Stick with it. Everybody, just think of something that you can do to change the world, something you could do to change your own little world, not the big world. Because your own little world changes the big world. As above, so below, and as within, so without. So, find yourself something motivating to do today, something enjoyable. Create art. It doesn't have to be for someone else. It doesn't have to be something you do for someone else. By creating art and by doing the will of the universe, you are the eyes of the universe, and you're creating something that no one else has ever done, and the universe will love you for it. And you have to love yourself for it. And I think that that's the most important, critical part, is people need to love themselves completely and utterly, and just accept who you are. We all have faults. I've got plenty of problems in my life. In fact, if I had had as many problems as I have right now, like 5 years ago, I'd probably break down and be in a mental state, like, panicking with anxiety, and I can't do it anymore. If you're living in the now, always, nothing else matters. So here, the balance I'm trying to find is between the now and the future. You still have to think about what you're going to do tomorrow, but you don't have to focus on it all day long. You put it in your mind, you think this is what I'm going to do, and then you live in the now for the rest of the day. It becomes easier and easier, and I never knew how easy it really could be to just live. Life is not supposed to be difficult. When the Buddhists say life is suffering, it's a perception thing. Life is suffering until you learn to accept the suffering. And without suffering would be no good, and without good there would be no love. And without love there would be no universe. So find yourself something that makes you happy, and do it for the world and for yourself. I love all of you. I don't want to withdraw, because a lot of people do, and that's the problem I've seen, is so many people attain a certain way of thinking and then just withdraw from society because they don't want to deal with the negativity. I can't do it. My conscience won't let me. I feel it's necessary for me to be one of the ones who carries the torch, no matter what kind of ridicule I might get, or what sort of disagreements people may have. I know what's in my heart feels right, and I just want to share it with others. So I better just turn this thing off before this video gets really long, because I could go on for hours. So much love to everybody, and I hope everyone's doing well.